So that's it. It is the end of the season, as painful or as joyous as it is, however you want to look at it. I think it's time to get into the 2016-2017 Tottenham Hotspur season review. So get yourself comfy, grab a cup of something, and I will get into the season review. I will start off by talking about a few statistics before I get into the individual details, highlights of the season, and etc. So we finished second in this league campaign. It is our highest ever finish since 1963 in the league. This season we gained our biggest point total of 86 points. We have an impressive plus 60 goal difference. I honestly can't even get my head around it. Obviously a few years ago we were just happy if we were in positives, but to have it at plus 60 is absolutely incredible. We scored the most goals of 86 goals and we conceded the least amount with 26. I'm absolutely gobsmacked. My mind is blown. It's absolutely brilliant what we've done this season. We only had 4 defeats this season, matching the club's all-time best from the 1919-1920 season. We were unbeaten at home, 17 wins and 2 draws from all Premier League games. And if that's not enough, then Harry Kane retained the Golden Boot by scoring 29 Premier League goals. Even though he was injured twice this season and missed 8 Premier League matches, he still managed to secure it ahead of everyone else. How absolutely brilliant is that? Furthermore, we have 3 players who scored 20 plus goals: Harry, Son and Dele. I'm just blown away. It's absolutely amazing. So now I'm going to move on to describing the season in some details. I'm not going to go into every single game in too much detail. That would mean we'd sit here for like hours probably. So no, I'll just highlight a few games and talk about a few things that make this season exceptionally memorable for me. Please let me know your highlights of this season down below. I would love to see what made it really special for you this season. What are the key moments that you thought really stood out for you this season? Obviously, this season is really impressive in its own way, but what made it, I think, a little bit more impressive is that how we started, or actually how we didn't really start the season that well. We seemed to have a massive hangover from the Euros and we started off really slow. We had injuries or suspensions and we just didn't really get our flow basically until like October. So things didn't start off well at Everton. We conceded directly from a free kick. Hugo got injured, but then we equalised. Lamela was the one actually he equalised. Do we really remember him? It seems like a lifetime ago, almost literally, that we've seen him play in a Tottenham shirt. Anyways, that meant we drew that game, which wasn't the best of starts to the season. Next game was at home against Palace. We won 1-0. Janssen was our man of the match and Wanyama got the goal, who was our summer signing, and I think he absolutely fitted into the system so quickly and he was really vital to the amazing season we had. Our next game was Liverpool at home, one of the 2 games we drew and did not win, quite surprisingly, but unfortunately it was at the beginning of the season, so we weren't ready. We were also without Hugo, Dembele and Son, so I'm pretty sure that was a huge factor to it, because if you look at towards the end of the season, all those players were actually quite key parts to our success in recent games. Needless to say, everyone loved jumping on the bandwagon of Harry Kane not being able to score again, that he's on some weird goal drought. Thankfully, he stopped that when we went up to Stoke and won again 4-0. Son also scored 2 goals. It was lovely to see him back in action. Ali got a goal as well, and I said Harry also scored. So it's a brilliant way to actually start off our campaign. And then we started off our Champions League campaign against Monaco at Wembley with a record of 85,000 attendance. The atmosphere was absolutely electric. I remember that really clearly. Everyone was wearing white, we had flags, we were really up for it. I think compared to Wembley Stadium as well, we created a really good atmosphere. We were definitely up for it. Unfortunately, however, we lost that game. So then the rest of the September saw us beat Sunderland and Middlesbrough in the league. We won 5-0 against Gillingham with our kids. That was really nice to see. And then we ended up actually winning a game in the Champions League. How amazing is that? We finished September in 2nd place without Rose and Kane, 4 points behind 100% performing Manchester City before our game in the beginning of October against them, and we won superbly 2-0 without Dembele and Kane. I think we played absolutely amazing that game. That was probably one of my favourite games all time for Spurs. We just played so fluently. Again, the odds were a little bit against us. Our form wasn't the best, and as I said, City were on a 100% record and we just absolutely bossed them. A brilliant game at the Lane. Unfortunately for us, after that impressive win against Manchester City, we were winless in our next 7 games. 4 draws in the Premier League, including a goal for Harry Kane on his return against Arsenal at the Emirates Stadium. He loves a good North London derby, and unfortunately Toby picked up an injury at West Brom. And after that 5-0 win against Gillingham meant we were in the next round of the League Cup. We faced Liverpool this time, but unfortunately we didn't put out our strongest 11 and we got knocked out of the cup. However, I think one of my highlights of November had to be that West Ham game, an impressive comeback against them. We won 3-2 with both the Harrys, Harry Kane and Harry Winks, scoring Winks' first goal as well. Unfortunately, the rest of November wasn't too kind to us. We lost to Monaco, which meant that was the end of our Champions League campaign for this season. And we suffered our first Premier League defeat at Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. I was at the game. We went up 1-0 and I think we played really well. We didn't even have a full strength team out. I think they got lucky with the equaliser before half time. Had that goal not gone in, had it been 1-0 at half time, I think it would have been a totally different game. That being said, they managed the game well and they came back and won 2-1. I still had a good time. It was my first time at the Bridge and our away support was absolutely amazing. It was a brilliant experience and hopefully next time we can actually win there. I think we bounced back pretty well in December. We won all of our games apart from one. We lost against United at Old Trafford. That meant that we were in 5th position, 10 points behind the leaders Chelsea by the end of 2016. However, Dele Alli made sure that we started 2017 in the best possible way. We beat Chelsea 2-0 at the Lane. Both of the goals were from Dele Alli as we ended Chelsea's 13-game winning run. And then a Harry Kane hat-trick helped us destroy West Brom in a 4-0 thrasher. I think we played amazing in that game. It was probably again one of my most favourite games. We did not let them touch the ball at all. As for the rest of January, we drew against City and surprisingly against Sunderland, where we lost Danny Rose to injury. However, a bit of a bright light was that we beat Wycombe Wanderers 4-3 at the Lane in our next round in the FA Cup. Again, it was quite a thrilling game. I was there. It was pretty entertaining and pretty nerve-wracking towards the end of it, but we got through it. So February started off alright. We beat Borough 1-0, but then we lost 2-0 to Liverpool at Anfield, and that only got worse when we lost to Ghent in the Europa League. And before the return fixture at Wembley, we actually had a pretty good day out at Fulham. That was a lot of fun. I had a great time there. We sang so much, probably my favourite away day so far. So after a disappointing exit from the Europa League, we bounced back in the league by beating Stoke City, Everton and Southampton. In between those games, we had an amazing 6-0 victory against Millwall. That was again a pretty memorable day. After the international break, we had 2 pretty tough away fixtures coming up. One was against Burnley and the other was against Swansea. And I have to say, I was most impressed by the team during this period because other seasons we would have easily crumbled. You know, international break, the players are not there, away trips as well, and they were not an easy games either, but we won both of them quite impressively as well, especially the one against Swansea. We beat them in a comeback, so I was most impressed, and I think we looked really good at the beginning of April. We were chasing in the league, obviously behind Chelsea. We knew at that point that we were drawn against them in the FA Cup semi-final, so I think it was a pretty exciting time to be a Spurs fan. Ahead of that semi-final, we won again impressively in the league by beating Watford and Bournemouth 4-0 both times. And then it was time for that FA Cup semi-final. Honestly, I was so surprised with the team selection, playing Son as a left wing back in a role he's never played before. Trying something new for a semi-final at Wembley, just like that. I was a bit disappointed, not gonna lie, because as I said, I don't think we should have tried something new. Brave, don't get me wrong, because Son was in an amazing form at the time and so was Wanyama, so you can't really drop both of them and we had to make it work somehow. I don't think this was the best option. Obviously, we make mistakes and we have to learn from them. It meant though that Chelsea had the momentum afterwards. They weren't having the best of times. I remember obviously talking to some Chelsea fans. They weren't 100% feeling confident about this game. So who knows? Obviously, if we could have won that game, it would have been a different season. But enough with the ifs and buts. We lost that game, which meant we had to bounce back and go on and push forward to securing our best ever finish in the league. And of course, it wasn't easy because our next game in the league was an away fixture at Palace. but an absolutely amazing goal from Eriksen saw us win a really tough game against them 1-0. They played really well. They were on a pretty good form. They've beaten Chelsea and Arsenal and other teams prior to that game, so they were definitely up for it, and so were we, but we came out victorious in the end. And before we knew it, it was coming towards the end of the season. We only had 2 more games at the Lane, one of them being a North London derby. The build up to that game was huge. There was so much tension around. It was obvious because we were playing so well at home. Arsenal haven't been playing so well, but obviously it's a derby. You can never know what's going to happen. But we won so convincingly and we absolutely dominated them to bits and pieces. We won 2-0, our last ever North London derby at the Lane. Harry Kane scored as well. I don't think it could have been more perfect than it was. This meant that we cut Chelsea's lead down to only 4 points, but unfortunately that was as close as we got, as we lost disappointingly to West Ham 1-0. What I found most impressive though, that at the end of the season we could have easily just deflated and let it all go, but we didn't. We kept it strong, we kept pushing for it, we were still up for it, and that's exactly what happened. It was brilliant to see that, especially compared to last season, for example, or just seasons in general. Whenever we had something go against us, we would almost always not be able to bounce back so quickly, but we did that really well this season, and this end of the season was just the same. So we scored 14 goals in 8 days in our last 3 fixtures. Even saying that sounds so ridiculous. We bid farewell to the Lane on an emotional day by beating Manchester United 2-1, and we had the ceremony. It was a really emotional day. I'm not going to go into detail. Go watch my other videos if you want to see my reactions on that. That win against United meant we secured our 2nd place, and loads of people were suggesting that, okay, in our next remaining fixtures we should see some of our youngsters come out, etc. I said it was important for us to keep going for it and fight for it and really secure that mentality, because I had the feeling that's what Poch wanted to get through this team as well. Exactly what happened. We beat Leicester City 6-1, we beat Hull City 7-1 in our last 2 games. Both of them were away. Harry Kane scored 4 goals against Leicester and 3 goals against Hull, meant he retained the Golden Boot and ended the season on a high. We weren't so fortunate with injuries, however. We lost Lamela earlier on the season, and who knows what would have happened if we had him with us. He provides something different, but I think we coped really well without him. I mentioned this quite a lot. Harry Kane was obviously out twice this season, and the way he came back, I'm so impressed, because it's not easy coming back from injuries like that. We had Toby out for a while. That could have been a bit concerning for us, but he came back, which was really good for us. Obviously, Danny Rose was out since January. I think at the time that was a huge blow for us, and again to some extent, which meant that obviously Davies didn't have a proper rest, and we missed Winks for the last 10 games of the season. So player of the season is quite interesting. There's an obvious shout for Harry Kane, obviously retaining the Golden Boot, being out twice this season, but then coming back and just getting fit and scoring again. He was definitely up there for me. I think Wanyama, it went a bit unnoticed because he was so solid for us in midfield. I think that signing, I can't believe we only just signed him. He got into the team so quickly and easily. He knew exactly what Poch wanted from him. It was brilliant. I don't think we could have had an impressive season if it wasn't for Wanyama. And Toby as well. I think Toby Alderweireld at the back, especially with Jan Vertonghen, their partnership is really solid, and I don't think it should go unnoticed. It's easy to notice obviously the goal scorers and the assists and all that, but I think our defence was pretty amazing as well this season. Finally, I want to talk about most improved player of the season. Now, I think I'm going to talk about 3 players in particular: Ben Davies, Harry Winks and Heung-min Son. Now let's start off with Harry Winks. The reason I'm going to start off with him is because he put in a huge effort over the summer to change his body, to strengthen himself and to put in loads of effort, and it really paid off. He was so strong in midfield, and he also has a really good forward-thinking mentality. We obviously saw that against West Ham. In general, it was always nice to see him on the ball when he came on the pitch. He's a really good player. Unfortunately, he got injured. Hopefully, we will see much more of him next season. Moving on to Ben Davies, obviously we didn't see much of him at the beginning of the season. It was mainly Danny Rose, and obviously once Danny Rose got injured, we had to see more of him, and he had to play more games, and he had to play week in, week out because there was no rotation available. At the beginning it was a bit iffy. He wasn't the best. I don't think he started off the best, but you have to give the lad some chance because, you know, throwing you into the deep water, you need to get up there, match fitness as well. I think he improved a lot towards the end of the season. He definitely improved his game. He got much stronger. As for Heung-min Son, yeah, he scored 20 plus goals this season, so that was pretty impressive. He was undroppable at some points in the season. His form was that amazing. He's so fast. He has an amazing work rate. He was always running towards every player, blocking them, pressuring them. He was always everywhere, making runs, creating runs, and yeah, I think he was a pretty impressive player this season. I think that's pretty much it for my season review. I tried to talk about everything without going into too much detail because I didn't want to make this like a huge video. Let me know if you think I missed out something important down in the comments section. We can talk about it there. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave it a thumbs up. It means a lot to me. Subscribe to my channel if you're new around here and you would like to see more Spurs related content from me. Hopefully I will see you in the future, and come on you Spurs!